everyone, I'm Isabel Sayed.
And I'm Monica Karam.
And we're here in the West End of Montreal today with Aine Sun, who is a sensuality and vulnerability coach.
Yay! Sensuality and vulnerability coach. So what does that mean?
Well, sensuality is really about opening up to your body and all the sensations that are in your body. And vulnerability is about awakening and opening up the heart and all of the feelings and everything that comes naturally and flows through us. And vulnerability and sensuality together are at the heart of the divine feminine. And they are these both very powerful and yet very natural, very humbling and yet very powerful pieces that create wholeness within ourselves and also within our relationship.
Can you emphasize on the vulnerability aspect? You said that vulnerability is part of the feminine. How is that part of the feminine, maybe in a different way, more so, or just in a different way than in the masculine?
Sure. When I'm talking about divine, masculine, feminine, I'm really talking about the aspects of the divine masculine, the divine feminine. So those are aspects that are in all different cultures and are also in all different genders. It doesn't. We all inherently have a masculine and a feminine within us, because we are in this patriarchal society where we really honor one historically. For the past 5,000 years, we've honored one God as our creator. Mm-hmm. We've put the goddess and the feminine qualities into our shadow, and there's been a long history of demonizing the feminine, making the feminine very, very evil, and something where we have put these parts of ourselves into our shadow. So our shadow is parts of ourselves that we don't want to look at. And it's not integrated into the light. So we're not using these qualities in our life in a way that can enrich us. And so a lot of women nowadays are embodying masculine traits in order to gain equality. And we are having to do all this, and a lot of women are just exhausted. And a lot of men are unfulfilled and are missing intimacy. And when we allow ourselves to really embody divine feminine qualities, or divine masculine to support our feminine, then we tap into gifts that are really hidden in a lot of us. Intuition, vulnerability, sensuality, also the wild feminine, our connection to the earth. The earth is sacred. So when the goddess was no longer considered that she was equal to God, then the earth was no longer sacred. And our minds, our bodies, and our hearts were no longer connected. Our sensuality is inherently connected to our heart. And our heart is as women, and in a sacred way, through the women can embody their sensuality through love. This is really love in the end, what we're talking about. So sensuality and vulnerability go together in a lot of ways, because actually it feels incredibly vulnerable to be sensual, especially because we have so many judgments around it. This is a big topic.
I was going to ask you, vulnerability is a very tough thing to do, and sometimes when you're vulnerable with people, it could be used in ways against you. I think you have to feel safe in an environment to be vulnerable with someone, to open up to somebody in relationships, in your personal life. It takes courage.
Yes.
I mean, I know from myself, I used to think that vulnerability was the weakest thing you could be. Really weak, because you're opening up But I'm noticing now that that's the key to a lot of things. But vulnerability, if done right and with people where you feel safe, you have to actually, there has to be a build-up
Absolutely.
to trusting people first.
Absolutely. And that's where the divine feminine and the divine masculine really work together. And there's this, in my work with the Enchantress, which is really about helping relationships flow back into passion and joy and peace together and harmony, it's really allowing yourself as a woman to melt into your feminine qualities in your relationship. Maybe you need to embody your masculine at your job. You're a lawyer or CEO and you really have to embody that, and that's absolutely okay. But when you come home, really embodying that feminine allows you to really receive, be full, and to, it just instantly, it's magnetic. It's this enchantress. It's this absolutely powerful sort of pull for the masculine to want to serve you and give you pleasure and make you happy, and so it's this beautiful thing. And back to what you were saying though about how we need support, and that's so true. And we need also within us, we need our inner masculine to also give us boundaries and keep us safe.
Because it's scary
Exactly.
to open up and be like all the things you're saying about letting go and all that stuff. It's very scary.
Exactly. And it creates,
Yeah.
yes, and that's a real call actually to the masculine, and what I believe the new masculine that's coming when men really integrate their feminine. There's a lot of tension between men and women right now. But because women are also really needing men to be gentlemen, to return into their feminine. But to do that, we are the keepers of it. And we're the ones, when we set the stage, the feminine is really the heart and the center of the family. And I've had clients that said, I can't believe how much my family dynamic has changed since it's a way of being, right? The feminine is a way of being.
So, what do you actually mean by being in the feminine? Because some of us,
That's a great question.
I don't know who, but some people, especially when we are embodying a lot of the time, single moms, as moms that are doing it all, we're embodying the masculine because we're always, let's go, let's do career, everything. So a lot of us have forgotten how to embody the feminine because we spend a lot of our time in the masculine. So what does it mean? What do you mean by going into the feminine for someone who maybe doesn't know how to reconnect to that?
Sure, that's a great question. And I can absolutely relate by being a mom of a young infant or toddler now. The feminine, I have a beautiful list.
Yes, the list,
that
love the
I
list.
have.
Okay.
My list.
I'm having my tea, guys.
So, this is a list from the book The Power of Receiving, and it's a beautiful list, and I love reading this list. I have it on my fridge, and I read it, and it just relaxes me into the feminine when I read this list. Just to say on that note with receiving, because we live in a patriarchal society, and we have historically for a long time really valued the traits of the masculine, the masculine is actually giving, right? As you say, being the doing, the giving.
And a lot of mothers have become the giving.
Absolutely. And it negatively affects our relationships,
For sure.
actually. So, the feminine with receiving, because we valued the giver for so long that that's actually a saint quality, we forget that giving and receiving is a dance. And
energy flow.
It is. And to really listen to receive someone, that means that they can stand in their light, they can stand in their power, and that's a huge gift to give to someone. It's honoring them, it's honoring their existence, honoring the gift that they have to give. When we do that for our man, really powerful things come
And
through.
then if you do it in life, like if you're always
Yes.
giving and you're not receiving, also flow, financial, different things, but also the flow of somebody giving you a gift or somebody doing something for you, it has to be give and take, or else it's not.
Definitely.
Something stuck, energy is stuck,
Stuck
because
energy.
it is a gift. Actually, interestingly enough, I picked this card earlier before we started this interview, and it says receiving is an act of generosity,
See?
which totally, I think, echoes what you were saying about
Yes.
the gift of receiving.
Yes, and one of the biggest helping traits that my work really helps with women is learning the self-care, learning,
That's the key.
learning the pleasure of my body and what am I feeling in my heart, what am I, so these receptive states that are very feminine and being in our feminine. And when I read this list, see how it makes you feel, and also maybe notice if this is something that you see in our rush culture, in our go, 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 and our do, do, do mentality. So meditating, allowing, noticing, including, appreciating, letting be, listening, opening, observing, embracing, being, attracting, feeling grateful, relaxing, welcoming, feeling, contemplating, revealing, accepting, letting go, yielding, hearing, watching, and acknowledging. Well,
As a result of these things, probably.
Intuition.
that's
Yeah.
it, because intuition includes our bodies, it includes
Being
our
opening.
senses, it includes, and that's why it's part of the feminine realm, because we are the embodiment of also the material world, the birthing of life, creating of spirit into form, right? And so this connection with the earth, with nature, so this, did you feel kind of like a relaxation and openness as
Yes, definitely, because like you were just saying before when you introduced this list, is that we're in such a space of productivity and go and doing and achieving, and I was just speaking with someone today about how she was saying how she feels like every minute counts, and she's constantly quantifying her time, or and saying, oh my God, do I have time to do this? Do I have time to stop and answer the door when someone comes to my door unexpectedly? It seems exaggerated. So hearing those words for me personally is yes, like now I understand what you were saying, what you meant about how when you look at them you feel like you relax, and you didn't say this, but what I felt was that like a certain release and an opening that happens, and it feels like yes, it's great to give myself permission in this moment to not be producing, achieving, just realizing, whatever, to just be. And that's an amazing quality. Other than just when I wake up in the morning and I do meditation, how can I just be throughout my day? So I love this idea of even just posting that on your fridge, or as a reminder, posting it somewhere where you can have access to it regularly.
Okay, so I've decided today I'm gonna be in the moment and I'm gonna be in my feminine and stuff. And now I'm like, how do we do this? So what can I do? First small steps.
So this allowing ourselves to be in our bodies in the moment, to notice what's going on, I have found it to be so much easier through awakening my sensuality than through practicing mindfulness. Because I find that mindfulness is very much of reminding myself to be kind of in my body, but to me it felt very, in a way, in a masculine way. And to me, to just simply notice the sensations of my body, right there. I'm just right there. So if it's me getting a tea, right, or even just as your favorite.
It's my favorite. Can we do it this way?
Can we introduce a friend here?
Yes.
Yeah. See, I need the other one. I need the turquoise one. Can I have it? No, I need the turquoise.
Of course. Colors are
So we're having fun now.
Right. Well,
Okay.
in my workshops and courses and coaching, I love to have one woman lay down and the other, if it's me or if it's a workshop, another woman, just really gently brush and just that noticing, because we're so numb. We have, we're so in our heads that we've numbed our bodies and our hearts. So this, what am I feeling? What am I needing? How's my body? Oftentimes, a lot of women don't even know, or men too. So just that delicate touch of a feather going on your skin, and you're
So
like,
soft.
yeah. And you start to realize how our bodies are these, we're made to receive pleasure and the endorphins that produces, the happy hormones, the being in the moment, the expansion of your heart, the connectedness with other people. It's really powerful stuff, actually. And it's these it brings us all back down to the simpleness of life, the simpleness of just being in our bodies. And then it's like you have the power to live to go back to the Garden of Eden, where you are just in paradise, just by being in the moment.
And even drinking our tea.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
slowly and tasting it and giving
Exactly.
it time. Because
Yeah.
we tend to drink our coffee or tea and just rush out, and we forget what it tastes like because we didn't sit with it. And,
Exactly.
you know?
We've known each other for a couple of years now, and I've had the privilege and the pleasure of participating in some of your workshops. And one of the things that really surprised me on this note is even just how one of the exercises that we were offered was dancing in a very sensual way. Not sexual, but just, if to an outsider it could appear very sexual, right? But I remember doing this where we're all in the same room. We're not, the focus is not, we're not performing. We're really, it's another way of mindful movement. And I remember you mentioning that this could be like how some people will start their day meditating, that people can even start their day just doing like a sensual dance, putting on music that inspires you. And that brings me back to my adolescence. I find it so fascinating, and I guess probably normal too. I'm interested in what you have to say about this, but when I was a teen, I remember I used to do that. I would put on music and I would dance very sensually and for myself, and I would enjoy it, and it was like probably a form of meditation and in movement, and I didn't even realize it at the time. I remember being in class and blah 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 blah, and the teacher, and I would just I would just just feel my neck and just connecting with myself in that way.
How come you are a sensuality and vulnerability coach? What said this is what I should do in my life? What brought this about?
It's funny you say that, because I grew up Italian Catholic and I was always very spiritual, and throughout my childhood for about 6 or 7 years I actually wanted to be a nun. Yeah, so I like everybody felt that sexuality was a really nice thing, an exciting thing, but I felt shame about it, and I felt like, well, this isn't really connected with spirituality, and this is something we do but we don't really feel comfortable about, or something like that as well. And I actually decided to be a preschool teacher, not a nun.
Okay, so
And I felt
lots of
sensuality, okay, that's career path is going very well. It seems okay.
So I became a preschool teacher, worked in international schools in Switzerland for 17 years, and I fell in love with a Swiss man, and we were together for 12 years, and we were going to have a baby together, and unfortunately there was something chromosomally wrong with our child, and we didn't quite know what it was. And I was having a lot of contractions, and I was put on bed rest. And to mention before, I was older than my husband. I also went to a feminist school. I was always into goddesses, and I always loved mythology and things of that sort. But I was the breadwinner, and I was also played more of that masculine role. I made the decisions in the relationship. I really said, okay, this is how I want to move forward. This is what I want to do. And so fast forward, we functioned quite well, but when I was pregnant and I had to be put on bed rest in the hospital, so that was the first time that I really learned how to embrace this femininity of receiving. And
it wasn't easy for sure at the beginning.
no, it wasn't.
Okay.
And I had to really be there in the moment, and I had to surrender because we didn't know what was wrong with my child. And I had wanted to be a mom for many years. It was something I had always looked forward to. So I was heartbroken to think that something could be wrong with my child. And as it turned out, the doctors never knew. And when he was born early, he passed away after 2 days. And for me, that was the second lesson I really learned of the feminine, was this concept of surrender as well. Because being very spiritual, I had all of my healer friends trying to, doing their healings on me. I had all my crystals around the bed. I was manifesting and thinking and, positive thinking, and this was going to happen and my baby was going to be okay. And I was a good person, so how could this happen to me?
Right.
And that was the first. Then I saw other women in the hospital who were smoking or, whatever, drinking coffee, not taking their vitamins or whatever. And their babies, although had really difficult situations, survived. And when my son was born, he weighed 1,440 grams. He was born on the 14th of June.
I love the story, but it gives me goosebumps. Yeah.
The 14th of June, and he was born at 4:14 a.m. So on the card, there was all these 144s. And I had known about angel numbers because I had practiced angel therapy, so I had known about angel numbers, and I thought, wow, this is really a powerful number. And when I just got this sense of peace that, look, I don't have control. It's written in the stars if my child, when we are born and when we go. My son has been alive for 2 days. And in his honor, I want to embody life and I want to live it to the fullest. And because I was
So beautiful.
on my bed for 5 weeks, and I had an IV. It was difficult to walk. It was difficult to get up to go to the bathroom. Just walking was a miracle for me. So everything became quite miraculous. And in the same sense, I really sort of just let go to my pleasure as well to help myself get through this, because then at the same time, 3 weeks later, my husband at the time said, I can't handle this pain. It's incredibly painful. He found it more painful than when his father had passed, and they were very close. And he had found another woman and was off. And my heart broke. That was my lesson also in vulnerability. My heart shattered this way for my son. It felt like I could feel it just to the ethers shattering, and this way for my ex-husband. And I felt like the ground beneath me had crumbled. And so to get through the grieving was one step at a time. And that's where these simple pleasures kind of started, and I allowed myself, I felt like I had this empty canvas. And one other important thing, when I was on the balcony at night, it was a summer night. My son was born in August, and in June. Sorry.
This story.
And I was sitting there and looking at the stars, and my ex-husband who told me, I just don't know how I feel, and it was like the stars were whispering, telling me, this is not your true love. Your true love is out there. You will go on a journey. You will discover more of yourself. And this all has a purpose and a plan.
Mm-hmm.
And that just gave me, I mean, that's the thing too about surrendering that we were talking about before, vulnerability. We need to trust. We need to be in a space where we trust. It's not something that you do.
Trust the universe, trust
Or plan.
that there's a plan for
it's not
our
something
life.
that we plan and control.
Yes.
Which is part of the, or the opposite of that is what you were describing before in that list of qualities of receiving.
Yes. And to finish the story, when I met my husband now, the night that we had met each other, when I was driving home, there was the biggest, most beautiful shooting star that flew over my car. It lit up the whole night sky in this beautiful turquoise. It was
amazing.
It's so majestic, and it was this feeling of like the universe is saying yes. And now we're married with a baby just right before my 40th birthday. Had a healthy baby girl, and yes. That
So things
concept of-
do have a happy ending, and the sensuality part was
Right.
for you to reconnect.
Of course, because what ended up happening was I allowed myself to stay really open to life, open to experiences, to not be so judgmental. And I started at my gym, there was a pole dance class. And I thought, pole dance? No way. And the secretary really tried to talk me into it because there weren't many women joining the class. Come on, just try it, it'll be fun, just try it, it'll be fun. And I thought, well, that's my new thing is, just allowing myself to experiment with life and not be judgmental, be open. So I went into that class. I spun around the pole, did some, very feminine circular movements, and I was like, this feels amazing, and this is fun. And being in this safe space with other women, it wasn't, like, we weren't doing it for men.
Right.
It wasn't objectifying ourselves. It was just embodying our sensuality for ourselves. And that was enlivening. There was this, it was like I tapped into this inner joy, passion, excitement, and then it was like, because letting that flow, allowing myself to integrate that part into who I am, not meaning, like you say, I don't have to go out in stilettos,
Yes.
with my breast to the world and to be a sensual woman. It's actually not at all about that.
It's all about connecting
Yeah.
your spirit to your body.
Yes, and enjoying through enjoying the food, enjoying the senses, the smells. It's about being able to receive all this, letting that and the emotions flow through you. And that's that feminine state that is very enchanting. It's very magnetic. That's another feminine quality. It's being in that state without not doing it for a purpose, but doing it for yourself and for your enjoyment and for your liveliness and your passion and embracing all life.
So now I know why you do it, and I can see in your face how much you love it. And
I do.
this is what you teach women. I mean, you taught a lot to me, and it was life changing. So I think that's what you do. That's your purpose,
Yes.
in my opinion.
Well, speaking of that, of what you do, so I know that you do different things. You talked about workshops and groups. Can you tell us a little more about what's coming up for you? What are some of the things projects you're working on, and what are you offering to people out there?
Sure, thanks. So at the moment, I'm really offering a lot of one-on-one coaching, one-on-one sacred feminine movement courses. So either women can come here in my space, my goddess temple, as I like to call it.
Isn't this
See
a
the
fun
sacred
space,
space.
guys?
Or through Skype.